All right, guys, good morning. Hope you're all doing well. I was going to go live yesterday or last night, but the football games were on, and I thought, we'll just do something this morning. I'm sure most of you will probably catch this a little bit later. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about Chrome OS for beginners, specifically an article on ZDNet. Now these guys, I think it's two guys, they finally got it right. Someone gets it right about Linux, Chrome OS, or Chromebooks for beginners. Again, this is from ZDNet, so give me a moment here to get situated. All right, so the best Linux distributions, distros, called distros in case you didn't know, for beginners, expert, tested. So the best Linux distros for beginners are as easy to use as Mac OS or Windows. Yes, there's a few that are very easy, not all of them. Obviously not all, at last count, not all 600 are easy to use. But there's a few that they've picked that I've picked also. And they included Chromebooks or Chrome OS. So let's take a look at the article. I should have made some coffee this morning, but I think I'll be okay. This won't be a long one, but I wanted to get this out there because, like I said, finally someone gets this right. All right, let's go to the article. All right, the best Linux distros for beginners, expert tested. All right, so I won't read every single word here, but they have Linux Mint, Chrome OS, Ubuntu. I don't agree with Ubuntu. Ubuntu is not what it used to be. Chrome, Zorin OS, and then MX Linux. All right, so if we scroll down a little more, all right, the best Linux for beginners in 2024. This article, I believe, is a few days old. So for the best Linux distribution for beginners overall, they have picked Linux Mint. It's hard to argue with that, although I still think Chrome OS and Chromebooks is my #1 pick. But yeah, Linux Mint, that's what I'm using now, is certainly very good. These guys from Mint have been around since 2008. When you stick around that long, you must be doing something right. So it's hard to argue with Linux Mint. Now they argue, they have some pros and cons here, and it's free Windows-like interface and excellent software installer. The cons are no proprietary drivers are included, but they can be easily installed via the driver manager. It doesn't come with snap support. Honestly, I try to avoid snaps and Flatpaks as much as possible. They can be somewhat unpredictable. So there's more details about Linux Mint, different desktop environments such as Cinnamon, Mate, and so on. I prefer the Mate desktop myself. Okay, Chrome OS, the best Linux distribution for beginners who are tired of Windows headaches. I'm not sure what they mean by Windows headaches. I don't have any Windows headaches in Windows 11. On 2 machines that are at least 10 years old, I was able to install Windows 11, and believe it or not, Windows runs faster than some Linux distributions, and you can probably guess which ones they are. So for me, Chrome OS, Chromebooks are the best Linux for beginners, period. But I suppose with Windows 10 there are some headaches. And I no longer use Windows 10. So the pros are free, easy to use, offered separately from Chromebooks. That would be Chrome OS Flex that you can download and install. I believe Chrome OS Flex is still experimental, so it may not be 100%. In my test it was fine, but yeah. Chromebooks for beginners, Chrome OS. If you're looking for something to replace Windows and all you do is get on the web, as they say here, that you use the web for everything, write with Google Docs, check Gmail. If that's you, then what you want is a Chromebook, or to just replace Windows or Mac OS with Chrome OS Flex. Now they say here that Chrome OS may not look like what you think of as Linux, but sure enough, underneath its Chrome web browser interface, Chrome OS is Linux. It's a modified version of Gentoo Linux, which is experts only. Gentoo, that is. They write the good news is that you don't need to know a darn thing about Gentoo to use it. Yeah, anyone can use Chrome OS. I mean, if you're reading this article via a web browser, which you probably are, you already know how to use Linux enough to work with the Chromebook. Okay. I won't go into more details, but yeah. No fuss, no muss, no muss, no muss, no mess. And a lot more useful than whatever you're currently running on an older PC. You can also enable Linux support in Chrome OS and run install Linux apps, and Android, by the way, which is why Chromebooks are a fantastic Linux option for beginners. Well, this one I completely disagree. Ubuntu, best easy-to-use Linux distribution for beginners. Nah, maybe at one time, but the default GNOME interface is definitely not for beginners. It's just not what it used to be. The last time I did a full install of Ubuntu, I had no sound. And in my sound menu, it said dummy output. Thank you. I appreciate that. So, yeah, this one I definitely disagree with. And I suspect some of you might agree with me. Some of the pros, great for personal computers as well as companies. Some of the best hardware recognition available. Built-in snap support for installing. I'm not sure that's a plus. Now the cons, it says the UI might take some time for new users to learn. Yeah, no bleep, Einstein. It's the worst UI for a beginner, or one of the worst for beginners, in my opinion. Okay, so by default, they use the GNOME 3 Plus interface. Yeah, it's just not for me. Aha, here we go. Now we're talking. Zorin OS, the best Linux distribution for beginners who are Windows fans. Okay, all right. There's a lot of best here for beginners, right? Yeah, Zorin OS has been around since 2010. They must be doing something right. It's on my top 3 list for beginners, along with the Chrome OS, Chromebooks, Zorin OS, and Linux Mint. They have free and paid options. Chrome OS, Mac, or Windows look and feel with the look changer. Yeah. Now the cons here that the Windows and Mac OS interfaces are only available in the paid version, but the paid version is not that expensive, quite affordable. It's only $39, and it's quite worth it. So they write, you really don't like the idea of even learning a little bit of GNOME. Okay. In this case, give Zorin OS a try. It's based on Ubuntu as in Mint. And there's some more information here. Again, I won't go into all of this. So, MX Linux, the best lightweight Linux distribution for beginners. I tested MX a long time ago. I think I liked it. Is it the best light one for beginners? I don't know. I just don't remember. So you guys can tell me if this is the best lightweight Linux for beginners, because I just don't remember. Works with much older computers. No dual boot option. Doesn't play well with Ubuntu PPAs, or some of the cons. Okay, fair enough. And then best beginner Linux distribution for those migrating from Mac OS. Okay, Elementary OS. I don't use it myself, but those of you who have Macs, let me know about Elementary OS. So they have a quick chart here, which is the best Linux distribution for beginners. So Linux Mint is free, based on GNOME 2.x. Chrome OS free based on Gentoo Linux. Ubuntu free for individuals, variable commercial pricing based on GNOME 3 plus X, and yeah, it's just not my favorite. Zorin OS is free for individuals, so $39 for the Pro versions based on Ubuntu. MX Linux is free based on Debian. Elementary OS, free option, available, pay what you want, based on Ubuntu LTS, and it's all open source. So which Linux distribution for beginners is right for you? Another chart here. Choose Linux Mint if you want Windows-like feel and operation. I like this. Chrome OS, a pick-and-play operating system, or as I call, click and go. It doesn't get easier than that. What they failed to mention with the Chromebooks and Chrome OS, no maintenance. Like, I haven't noticed any bugs in my Chromebooks. Like, zero, nada, zilch. Pick and play is quite appropriate. And it's the only Linux-based system I have tried where I've never had to fix anything, such as going into the terminal commands to solve an issue. Never, ever, 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 period. That's why Chrome OS is the best in Chromebooks, the best Linux option for beginners, because there is nothing ever to break, period. Now, the downside of a Chromebook, you can't really customize it, but that's a trade-off. I'd gladly trade customizations for zero maintenance. All right, so Ubuntu, a more in-depth OS for learning code. Zorin OS, support for Mac OS, Mac, Chrome OS, and Windows-like interfaces. MX Linux, a robust online community for open source code tweaking. Elementary OS, a user-friendly distribution with a similar UI to Mac OS. So, and how did they choose the best Linux for beginners? Ease of use, price. Some of these, there are paid options. Is it hard to install applications on Linux? With these, really, there aren't. There's more information here. Again, I won't read all of this, but the point of all this, finally someone added Chrome OS to the list, or rather short list, of the best Linux systems. Really not just for beginners, but for everybody who just don't want headaches solving puzzles, as somebody said, or trying to find out where the bug comes from. And Zorin OS, Linux Mint, Chromebooks, Chrome OS Flex, those are the ones that you should be trying if you are interested in trying something based on Linux. Okay, let me refresh. I'm going to refresh the page. Let me go into the chat here and see if anybody's here. If not, we're just going to wrap this up. Okay, the stream still looks good. I think we have a few people watching. If you would like to say hello or have a question, if you are new to all this, don't be shy. I do these live shows at random times just to catch anybody who happens to be home, homesick from the hospital, off, on vacation, different time zones. Say hello. If not, I'm going to wrap this up. I should have made some more coffee, but I'll be all right. I can't wait for summer. All right, Chris is in the house. Good morning. Well, it's good morning for me. How are you? How you been? And have you ever used a Chromebook? All right, there's a slight delay here, but Chris says no Chromebooks. Okay, fair enough. I have 2 of them. Debian KDE. Okay, I have used Debian in the past. Debian Stable is definitely rock solid. Solid, not necessarily for beginners, but it's good, yes. All right, looks like a quiet morning here in the chat, Chris. I'll stick around a few more minutes, and I think I'll start my day. It's funny, I got a text from my dentist office. Hey, we had a cancellation. Would you like to come in for your checkup? I got the message like 10 minutes before they had an opening. There's no way I could make it, but oh well. Hopefully there'll be no bugs in my teeth, if you know what I'm saying. All right, well, Chris, it's a quiet morning here in the chat, so I guess we'll wrap it up. Thank you for stopping in to say hello. And I'm sure most of you will catch this later on, but those are my thoughts on a true, mostly accurate, the best Linux for beginners. And whatever you use, I hope it works out for you. All right. I'm going to wrap this up, start my day, have some breakfast, have some coffee, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. You guys know how to reach me, so yeah. If you live here in the States, it's winter, stay warm, be safe, drive carefully, and all that stuff. I'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.